Hello, I'm Whisper in the Dark, your late-night storyteller. I specialize in eerie and chilling tales that will keep your eyes glued to the screen. Tonight, you'll hear strange and bizarre stories, events that not everyone dares to face. Don't go anywhere, I'm about to begin the story right now. Story 1, The Midnight Order. Ethan was a young man working as a food delivery driver. His life was simple and monotonous, until one night, something changed. He received a call from the system, and the order was different from any he had ever taken. The delivery was to a house deep in the woods, a place he had never heard of before. Not only that, the order required him to deliver at midnight, a very strange time. Moreover, the caller left no name or phone number, only a mysterious address. The food delivery system encouraged him to take the order, promising a large reward, which made Ethan hesitate for only a moment before agreeing. Even though something felt off, Ethan decided to take the order. He had driven through these desolate roads many times before, but he had never ventured into this area. He pushed the uneasy feeling aside, telling himself that he was just a delivery driver, not someone to be scared. As Ethan turned onto the dirt road leading into the woods, the atmosphere became dense and cold. The road was bumpy, forcing him to slow down. The shadow of the trees on either side of the road slowly obscured the sky, and the headlights seemed to be swallowed by the darkness. The farther he drove into the woods, the colder the air became, and the sound of the wind whistling through the branches made his heart race. He tried to focus on the road, but the feeling of unease lingered in his mind. When his car made a sharp turn, he saw a large, old house standing eerily in the dark, like a crumbling castle. The house appeared abandoned, with a broken roof and collapsed walls, but a faint light shone from a window. Ethan thought maybe someone still lived there, but the sight of the house made him uneasy. Ethan stopped his car in front of the house and looked around. The air grew colder, and he felt like he was stepping into a place that didn't belong in this world. The front door creaked open, as if inviting him in. From the outside, there was no sound, just the echo of his own footsteps in the silent space. He placed the food on the table in the living room, only to hear a faint whisper from the dark corner of the room. Suddenly, a figure appeared, a woman with red eyes, pale skin, and long hair that covered her shoulders. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered. Ethan turned around but saw no one else. He was gripped by a bone-chilling cold, yet he couldn't move, as if an invisible force was holding him back. Part 4, The Ghosts Surrounding Him. The atmosphere grew heavier, and more ghosts began to appear. The spirits of those who had been trapped in the house before him, unable to escape, were now trying to pull him into their world. The ghosts slowly surrounded Ethan, advancing toward him with every whisper from every direction. The house seemed to grow larger, its space endless, and each step he took made the ghosts come closer. Ethan ran through the house but couldn't find a way out. The house was like a labyrinth with no exit. He tried opening doors, but they were all locked tight. The ghosts kept advancing, and Ethan realized that he had become part of this house, trapped in an endless cycle he could never escape from. When the realization hit, it was too late. The ghosts and lost souls began to surround him, pulling him into the never-ending vortex. The whispers grew louder, surrounding Ethan in a constant, maddening hum. It was as if the spirits were speaking in unison, calling to him, beckoning him to join their ranks. He tried to cover his ears, but the whispers were in his mind, deep and unrelenting. The longer he stayed in the house, the more the voices seemed to shape his thoughts. He felt his will slipping away as if he were becoming one of them. Suddenly, the air shifted. Ethan was no longer in the mansion. Instead, he was standing in an open field, the moon hanging low in the sky. But there was something wrong. He looked down to find his hands, pale and translucent, and his body was barely visible in the moonlight. He had become a ghost, trapped in a vision of his own demise. As he looked around, he saw other souls, lost and wandering in the field, their faces frozen in a state of terror. Ethan's heart raced as he realized what had happened. He wasn't just in the mansion anymore, he was now part of the endless loop of spirits. The mansion had claimed him, and now he would wander the earth forever, unable to leave, unable to escape the vision of his own death. His body had long since been lost, and he had become one of the many spirits doomed to haunt the mansion. Days, weeks, months, it all blended together in the endless fog. The mansion stood there, waiting for its next victim. Ethan, now a part of the mansion's cursed inhabitants, would wait with the others, longing for the moment when someone else would come to take their place. But he knew that the cycle would never end. As long as the mansion stood, there would always be new souls to claim. Ethan would never be alone again. He and the other trapped souls would forever wander the mansion, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to enter. The mansion's curse was eternal, and no one could ever escape its grasp. Every night, new souls would join, and the cycle would begin anew. Forever and ever. Story 2, The Hospital at Midnight. Dr. James was working late at the hospital. He had been a doctor for years and thought he had seen everything. But that night, something felt different. As he walked through the empty hallway, he received a call from a nurse in the ICU. "Doctor, there's something wrong with room 302, she said. "No one has been in there for years, but there's a strange noise coming from inside." Dr. James had heard rumors about room 302, but he dismissed them as superstition. He decided to investigate, telling himself it was just an old room that needed maintenance. When Dr. James entered room 302, he immediately felt a chill in the air. The room was empty, save for the faint sound of breathing, as if someone was lying in the bed. But when he approached the bed, there was no patient. The sheets were perfectly made, and the room looked untouched. The breathing sound continued, growing louder. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him, and the lights flickered. Dr. James tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as he realized he was locked in. The breathing grew louder, now accompanied by faint whispers. Dr. James turned around, but there was no one there. His heart raced as he felt a dark presence closing in on him. He tried to remember the rumors he had heard about the cursed room, but it was too late. Something was in the room with him, and it wasn't human. He could hear footsteps now, slow and deliberate, but when he turned around, no one was there. The whispers grew louder, and a voice, cold and menacing, whispered his name. As Dr. James struggled to open the door again, he saw a shadow move across the room. It was a figure, tall and dark, standing in the corner. He could feel the presence of death in the room, an overwhelming sense of dread that threatened to consume him. The figure stepped forward, and Dr. James recognized the face. It was the face of a patient who had died in that very room years ago. The spirit reached out to him, its cold hand brushing against his cheek. Suddenly, the room was filled with an unbearable pressure. Dr. James gasped for air, but it was as if the very walls were closing in on him. The spirit of the lost patient reached for him, dragging him toward the bed where the sheet was now blood-stained. He tried to scream, but his voice was muffled by the oppressive darkness. And then, everything went silent. Dr. James' body was found the next morning in room 302. His eyes were wide open, his mouth frozen in a silent scream. The hospital staff could find no explanation for his death. Some say the room claimed him, just as it had claimed so many others before him. Story 3: The Midnight Delivery. Max was a middle-aged food delivery driver who had been working in the field for many years. He was used to late-night orders and strange requests from customers, but that night, something felt off. He received a call from an unknown number, and the voice on the other end asked him to deliver an order at midnight. "Hello, I need you to deliver food to an abandoned mansion in the outskirts. The address is difficult to find. Can you make the delivery?" The voice sounded vague, strange, yet somehow captivating. Max, eager for the generous tip, agreed to take the order without hesitation. Max drove down a deserted road on the outskirts, where the houses were far apart, large trees covered the sky, and there were no signs of life. As he neared the mansion, the road became darker and more desolate. The lights dimmed, leaving only the faint glow from his car's headlights. Max couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Finally, he reached the mansion. The old house stood silently in the dark forest, abandoned for years, yet a faint light flickered from its windows, as if someone was still living there. When Max entered, the air inside was cold. The ancient walls, worn-out furniture, and eerie atmosphere gave the house a strange aura. He placed the food on the table and was about to leave when he suddenly felt an uncanny presence. A ghostly figure appeared from a dark corner, a woman with blood-red eyes, pale skin, and long hair that covered her shoulders. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered. Max froze, looking around, but no one else was in sight. The chill in the air gripped him, and an invisible force held him in place. The air grew thicker, and more ghosts began to appear. They were souls trapped in the mansion, unable to leave, and now they were trying to pull Max into their world. The spirits surrounded him, getting closer with each whisper. The house seemed endless, with no way out, and each step Max took made the spirits come closer. Max ran through the mansion, but he couldn't find an exit. The house was like a labyrinth with no way out. Every door he tried was locked. The ghosts closed in on him, and Max realized that he had become a part of the mansion, trapped in an unbreakable cycle. When he understood, it was too late. The spirits closed in, pulling him into their eternal spiral. The whispers became louder, surrounding Max in an unrelenting hum. It felt like the spirits were calling to him, trying to pull him into their endless loop. The more time he spent there, the more his own thoughts were consumed by the spirits. He could feel his will fading as he became one of them. Suddenly, Max found himself standing in an open field under a low-hanging moon. He looked down to see his hands, pale and nearly transparent, and his body was barely visible in the moonlight. He had become a ghost. Around him were other lost souls, wandering the field in terror, their faces frozen in fear. Max's heart raced as he realized what had happened. He wasn't just in the mansion anymore, he was now trapped in the endless cycle of spirits. The mansion had claimed him, and now he would wander the earth forever, unable to escape the vision of his own death. His physical body had been lost, and he was one of the many spirits doomed to haunt the mansion. Days, weeks, and months blurred together. The mansion waited for its next victim. Max, now one of the cursed souls of the mansion, waited with the others for someone else to take their place. But he knew that the cycle would never end. As long as the mansion stood, there would always be new souls to claim. Max would never be alone again. He and the other trapped souls would wander the mansion, waiting for the next victim. The mansion's curse was eternal, and no one could ever escape. New souls would join the mansion each night, and the cycle would begin again, forever. Thank you for listening to these mysterious late-night stories. Which one did you like the most? Leave a comment below and don't forget to like this video if you found it interesting. Follow for more bizarre tales in the future. See you next time in the next strange story.